Every month, my son would ask for my retirement money, until one day I waited for him at the house with my attorney. I heard the engine of his pickup truck turn off in front of my house, just like on the 28th of every month. From the living room window, I watched him get out with that confidence he always had, that way of walking, as if the world owed him something. But this time, I wasn't alone. Next to me, Mr. Thompson, the attorney, calmly reviewed some papers. A man in his early 50s, wearing a dark suit, with a leather briefcase resting on my lap. He looked at me over his glasses and nodded slightly. "Are you ready, Mrs. Dorothy?" I nodded, even though my hands were shaking. I was 68 years old, and I never thought the day would come when I'd need an attorney to talk to my own son. But let me tell you how I got here, because this didn't start a day or a week ago. This started 6 months ago, when I still trusted every word that came out of his mouth. It all began 3 months after my husband's funeral. Charles had died of a sudden heart attack, leaving me alone in this house we built together, with nothing more than his Social Security and mine to live on. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I could pay my bills, buy my food, my blood pressure medication. I even had a little bit left over to save. Robert, my oldest son, started visiting me more often. At first, I was so happy to see him. He would come on Sundays for coffee. He would ask how I was and if I needed anything. I thought that finally, after years of seeing him busy with his auto repair shop, with his wife Vanessa and their 2 kids, he had found time for his mother. How naive I was. The first time he asked me for money was on a Tuesday afternoon. He showed up without calling. That was unusual for him. He had that worried look that I had known since he was a child, when something was genuinely bothering him. "Mom, I need to ask you a big favor." I sat across from him at the kitchen table. I served him coffee as always. "Tell me, son, what's wrong?" "It's the shop. We had a bad week and I need to pay the suppliers. It's $30,000. I'll pay you back next month. I promise you." $30,000. It was almost half of my Social Security. But he was my son, the man I raised, to whom I gave everything I could. I didn't think twice. "Sure, Robert. Let me go get my purse." When I handed him the money, he hugged me tight. He smelled like motor oil and that expensive cologne he always wore. "Thanks, Mom. You don't know how much this helps. Dad would be proud of you." Mentioning his father was like a sweet stab to my heart. Charles always said that family helps each other. That's what we're here for. The month passed. Robert didn't pay the money back, but he called me on the 28th. "Mom, can I stop by? I need to talk to you." He arrived with flowers, that little touch that I liked so much. We talked about a little bit of everything while we had iced tea, about his kids, how they were doing in school, about Vanessa and her job at a clothing store. Everything seemed normal until he brought up the subject. "Mom, about last month's thing. The supplier gave me more time, but now I need to fix one of the machines at the shop. It's $20,000. I swear I'll pay you back everything together next month." Something in my chest tightened, but I ignored it. He was my son. I trusted him. "All right, Robert, but I really need you to next month." "Yes, Mom, I promise you. Word of honor." That's how the routine started. Every 28th of the month, sometimes even earlier, Robert would show up with a new story. The employees needed their pay. There was an opportunity to buy used tools. A big client hadn't paid yet. There was always something, and I always gave him the money. By the 3rd month, I started noticing that something was wrong with my body. I got tired faster. I felt dizzy when I stood up. When I went to buy my blood pressure medication, the pharmacist looked at me with concern. "Mrs. Dorothy, you haven't bought your pills in 2 months. Are you all right?" I didn't know how to answer her. The truth was, I didn't have enough money. After giving Robert what he needed, I barely had enough left for basic groceries. I had started buying the cheapest brands of everything. Rice, beans, just the bare minimum. I no longer bought the steak I liked or the fruits the doctor had recommended. "I'm fine, thank you," I said. "I'll come by next week for them." But I knew it was a lie. That night, alone in my bed, I cried silently. I felt trapped. How was I going to tell my son I couldn't keep helping him? He was counting on me. His family depended on that shop, and I was his mother. Mothers don't abandon their children. The routine became heavier. Robert no longer brought flowers. He no longer sat down for coffee. He would arrive, Ask for the money in a hurry and leave. The excuses were still the same, but his tone had changed. It was no longer a request. It was almost a demand. Mom, I need $25,000 for today. I have to pay before 6 o'clock. Robert, son, it's just that this month is difficult. I haven't even bought. Mom, please, don't do this to me. It's urgent. What do you want? For me to lose the shop? For my kids to go hungry? His words made me feel selfish, terrible. What kind of mother was I to deny help to my own son? I gave him the money. Everything changed on a Wednesday afternoon. I had gone to the supermarket downtown, the one that has better prices. I was pushing my cart with just the basics: a bag of rice, some eggs, cheap bread. I was doing calculations in my head, adding up every item, making sure not to go over my ridiculous budget. And then I saw them. Robert, Vanessa, and their 2 kids were leaving one of the most expensive steakhouses in the area. The one Charles only took me to on special occasions, when we wanted to celebrate something important. The children were wearing new clothes, designer brands. I recognized the logos that are on television. Vanessa was carrying a purse that looked expensive, one of those sold in the fancy mall stores. Robert took out his wallet and paid the check without even looking at the total. I watched him swipe his card with the casualness of someone who has no financial worries. I hid behind a display case. I didn't want them to see me. I didn't want them to know I was there, with my old clothes, my frayed bag, my cart with 4 miserable items. They passed in front of me without seeing me, laughing. I heard them comment about the food, about going to the movies afterward. Robert gave money to his older son to buy popcorn for everyone. I felt the floor moving under my feet. I had to hold on to the cart to keep from falling. 3 days ago, Robert had told me he urgently needed $30,000 to pay the shop employees, that if he didn't, he would have to fire someone. I had given him 70% of my Social Security for that month. I was left unable to buy my medications again. And there he was, at an expensive restaurant, in new clothes, paying as if he had money to spare. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going over the matter. Maybe the business had improved right after he asked me for the money. Maybe he had collected from that big client. Maybe Vanessa had received a bonus at her job. But something inside me, a small voice I had been trying to silence for months, was telling me the truth. He was using me. The next 2 weeks were hell. I kept feeling dizzy. It was getting harder and harder to walk to the market. One afternoon, while preparing dinner, I felt the room spin. I had to sit on the kitchen floor, breathing deeply, praying for it to pass. I needed my medications. I needed to eat better. I needed my son to stop taking the money that was keeping me alive. But every time I thought about telling him something, I remembered his disappointed face when I suggested he give me back even a part of it. It was 2 weeks after seeing them at the restaurant. I gathered all my courage. Robert, son, do you think this month you could pay back some of what I've loaned you? It doesn't have to be all of it, but I really need to buy my medicine and... He jumped up from the chair so fast it scared me. His face completely changed. He was no longer my son. He was an irritated stranger. Seriously, Mom? Are you seriously going to charge me interest? Are you keeping track? No, son, I'm not. I work day and night, Mom, day and night to provide for my family, to build something. And you, who have your retirement secured every month, who don't have to do anything but exist? Are you going to charge me? Robert, please, it's not that. It's just that Dad would be disappointed in you. He always said that family supports each other unconditionally, that money comes and goes. But family is forever. And what are you doing? You're charging me as if I were a stranger. I was paralyzed. His words went through me like knives. Would my husband be disappointed in me? Was I the bad guy for asking for my own money back? I'm sorry, son. I didn't mean to. Forget it, Mom. I see that your money is worth more than your own son. He left, slamming the door. I stayed there, sitting at my kitchen table, crying like I hadn't cried since Charles's funeral. I felt like the worst mother in the world, selfish, stingy, bad. That night I barely slept. The dizziness worsened. I felt sharp pains in my chest that scared me. What if something happened to me? What if it happened to me like Charles? A sudden heart attack. Who would find me? Robert wasn't coming by often anymore after our fight. Anne, my youngest daughter, lived in another state, 5 hours away. The idea of dying alone in my house terrified me more than anything. A week later, my phone rang. It was Anne. We hadn't talked in a while. She was always busy with her job in the city, and I didn't want to bother her with my problems. "Mom, how are you? My cousin Lisa said she saw you at church on Sunday and that you looked really thin. Are you eating well?" Her genuine concern broke me. Without meaning to, I started to cry. "Mom, what's wrong? You're scaring me." "I'm fine, honey. It's just that I miss your dad." "Mom, I know you. There's something else. Tell me." And then, like a dam breaking, I told her everything. Every dollar I had given Robert, every broken promise, the medications I couldn't buy, the dizziness, the hunger, the expensive restaurant, everything. Anne didn't say anything for several seconds. When she spoke, her voice trembled with rage. "How long has this been going on? 6 months, more or less, and Robert has never paid you back anything? He says he will, that the shop—" "Mom, Robert's shop is doing great. He uploads pictures to social media. 3 months ago, they bought 2 new machines and hired more employees. They're expanding." I felt the world stop. Robert had lied to me, for months, about everything. Why would he do that, Anne? Why would your own brother? "I don't know, Mom, but this ends now. Listen to me closely. Don't give him another dollar, not one. I'm coming this weekend, and we're going to fix this. But he's your brother. I don't want to cause trouble in the family." "Mom, he is the one causing trouble. He's using you. He's starving you. That's not family. That's abuse." The word hit me like cold water. Abuse. My son was abusing me. Saturday arrived. "And Mom, promise me something." "What?" "If Robert comes before, don't open the door. Don't give him anything. Tell him you're sick, whatever, but don't give him any more money." "All right, honey." That night, I slept a little better. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't alone. Anne arrived early on Saturday. She brought bags from the grocery store, steak, fruit, vegetables, everything I had stopped buying. She hugged me tight when she saw me. "Oh, Mom, you're just skin and bones." We spent the day together. We ate well, like I hadn't eaten in months, and then she took out a notebook that I had hidden in a drawer. "What is this?" It was my record. From the first dollar I gave Robert, I had written down the date, the amount, and the reason he had given me. I don't know why I did it. I guess deep down, something in me knew I would need to remember. Anne reviewed it page by page. Her face grew paler and paler. "Mom, this is a lot of money. This is equivalent to 14 months of your Social Security." So much. I hadn't even calculated it myself. Each time I saw them as separate amounts, as small favors. But adding it all up was overwhelming. "We need legal help, Mom. This can't continue." "Legal? Anne, I don't want to send my son to jail." "It's not about that. It's about him paying you back your money and understanding that what he's doing is wrong. I know someone, Mr. Thompson, the attorney. He was a friend's colleague in college. He's a good person and works with cases involving senior citizens." The term senior citizens made me feel old, but I knew Anne was right. At 68, with my health deteriorating, I needed to protect myself. On Monday, we went to Mr. Thompson's office. He was a kind man with a slow, deliberate way of speaking. He listened to my whole story without interrupting. He carefully reviewed my notebook. "Mrs. Dorothy, what your son is doing is called financial abuse of a senior citizen. It is a crime, but I understand you don't want to go that far. What we can do is confront him legally, with a written agreement for him to pay the money back." Would he agree to that? With an attorney present, people tend to take things more seriously. When does he usually visit you? The 28th of every month. That's when I get my Social Security. Perfect. The next 28th is in 3 days. Does it seem all right to you for me to be present at that meeting? I looked at Anne. She nodded firmly. I looked at the attorney. His face conveyed confidence. All right. Let's do it. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. Anne had to return to her city for work commitments, but she called me every morning and every night. Has Robert called you yet? No, nothing. Perfect. Stick to the plan. The attorney arrives at 10 in the morning. Robert always arrives close to noon, right? Yes. Everything is going to be fine, Mom. You are strong. Stronger than you think. Was I? I wasn't sure, but there was no turning back now. The morning of the 28th, I got up early. I dressed as nicely as I could. I put on the dress Charles had given me for our last anniversary. I needed to feel strong. At 10 o'clock sharp, Mr. Thompson knocked on my door. He carried his briefcase and a folder with documents. Good morning, Mrs. Dorothy. Ready? Ready. We sat in the living room. He reviewed the papers he had prepared, a simple contract where Robert would agree to pay me back the money in monthly installments. Nothing aggressive, just fair. At 11:30, we heard the sound of a truck engine. Is that him? The attorney asked. I looked out the window. It was Robert's new truck, the one he had bought 6 months ago, right when he started asking me for money. Yes, it's him. The attorney closed his folder and adjusted his glasses. Take a deep breath, Mrs. Dorothy. You are doing the right thing. I heard his steps approaching the door, the sound of his keys searching for the lock, as always. He had a copy of my house key. Charles had given it to him when he was a teenager, so he could come in if I ever needed help. I never imagined that gesture of trust would become part of the problem. The door opened. Robert walked in with his usual confidence, cell phone in hand, without even looking toward the living room. Mom, I need to... He stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes went from me to the attorney, from the attorney back to me. For the first time in 6 months, I saw fear on his face, and I, for the first time in 6 months, didn't feel guilt. I felt power. Mom, who is he? Robert's voice sounded different. He didn't have that usual confidence. There was something in his tone I had never heard before. Uncertainty. Mr. Thompson calmly stood up. He extended his hand toward Robert. Good morning. I am Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Dorothy's attorney. Robert didn't shake his hand. He just stood there, his cell phone still in his hand, looking at me as if waiting for me to say this was a joke, that everything was fine. But I didn't say anything. I just looked him in the eye. Sit down, Robert. We need to talk. Attorney? Mom, what's going on here? Did something happen to you? Is someone bothering you? How ironic. The person who was harming me was him, and he didn't even know it, or maybe he did, and was just pretending. Sit down, I repeated, this time more firmly. Robert obeyed, but he sat on the edge of the sofa, tense. The attorney returned to his place beside me and opened his briefcase. He took out my old notebook, the one where I had written everything down for 6 months. Mr. Robert, your mother has hired me because she needs to resolve an important matter with you. What matter? Mom, if you needed legal help, you could have told me. I know attorneys. You didn't have to. It's about the money I've loaned you, I said. My voice came out clearer than I expected. All the money I've given you these past months. Robert's face changed. It went from confusion to something like anger, but mixed with shame. Loaned? Mom, I'm going to pay you back. I've told you 1,000 times. The shop is going through a tough time, but the shop is doing very well, Mr. Thompson interrupted, without raising his voice, but firmly. According to the information your sister Anne provided us, your business has grown considerably in recent months. You have acquired new machinery and hired additional staff. Robert turned pale. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. The attorney placed my notebook on the coffee table, open to the first page. This is the notebook where your mother has recorded every dollar you have asked for, every date, every amount, every reason you gave her. Would you like to review it? It's not necessary. I know how much. Allow me to help you with the numbers then, the attorney said, taking out a document he had prepared. In 6 months, you have received a total of $342,000 from your mother. That is equivalent to 14 months of her full Social Security. I watched Robert swallow hard. I had never seen him like that, not even when his father scolded him as a teenager for some mischief. I will pay it back. It's just that the timing hasn't been... When? I asked. Tears were starting to well up in my eyes, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. They were rage. When, Robert? Next month? The month after? You've said that for 6 months straight. Mom, you have to understand that I understand that I haven't been able to buy my medications to help you. I understand that I've eaten rice and beans for weeks because I couldn't afford anything else. I understand that I've had such bad dizziness that I thought I was going to die alone in my house." My voice broke on the last word. Robert stared at me with wide eyes. Was it surprise or guilt? "Mom, I didn't know that. You didn't ask. In 6 months, you never asked if I was okay. You just arrived, asked for the money, and left. I thought that with your Social Security, you could—" "My Social Security is $45,000 a month, Robert. You have asked me for an average of $57,000 monthly. Where did you think I was going to get the difference? Out of thin air?" The silence that followed was heavy. I could hear the wall clock ticking every second. Robert's gaze was fixed on the floor. His hands were trembling slightly. Mr. Thompson broke the silence. "Mr. Robert, we are here to reach an agreement. Your mother does not wish to pursue more severe legal action, but she needs you to—" Robert's cell phone rang. We all jumped. He looked at it, and his face turned even paler. "It's Vanessa," he mumbled. "Answer it if you need to," the attorney said. "Maybe it's important." Robert hesitated, but finally stood up and went out to the small backyard. From the living room, we could hear murmuring, though not the exact words. Then his voice rose. "No, it's not that. I already told you that. Vanessa, wait, I'll explain." There was a long pause. Then we heard something that sounded like a choked sob. The attorney looked at me with a raised eyebrow. I didn't know what to think. What did Vanessa have to do with all this? Robert returned 2 minutes later. His face was red, and there were tears in his eyes. He collapsed onto the sofa, no longer on the edge, but sunken, defeated. "Vanessa is on her way here," he said hoarsely. "She'll be here in 10 minutes. "Why?" I asked. Robert covered his face with his hands. She found my bank statements, the withdrawals I've made on the 28th of every month. For weeks she's been thinking that I was having an affair or something worse, that I was gambling or, I don't know, she was desperate. She even hired someone to follow me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Vanessa didn't know anything. All this time I thought that maybe she was part of the plan, that maybe they had both decided to take advantage of me. "She didn't know you were taking my Social Security?" My words sounded harsher than I intended, but it was the truth. "No, she thought all the extra money was coming from the shop. I told her we were having good months, that we were growing. And yes, we are growing, Mom, that's true. But then why did you want my money?" The question came out like a cry. "If the shop is doing well, if you have money, why did you leave me without medicine? Why did you leave me to starve?" Robert didn't answer. He just stayed there, his face buried in his hands, trembling. We didn't have to wait long. The doorbell rang exactly 8 minutes later. I went to open it myself. Vanessa was there, her purse hanging from her shoulder, her face serious. When she saw me, her expression softened a little. "Mother-in-law, I'm sorry to just show up like this. I need to talk to Robert." "Come in, honey. I think we all need to talk." Vanessa entered and greeted the attorney with respect, although the confusion was evident on her face. When she saw Robert, her jaw clenched. "Explain yourself," she said, without even sitting down. "Explain what you were doing with $50,000 every month, because the detective followed you here 3 times, to your mother's house, on the days you withdrew the money." Robert looked up. His eyes were red. "I was borrowing money from my mom." "Borrowing?" Vanessa's voice rose. "Robert, the shop brings in over $200,000 a month in profit. Why would you need to borrow money from your mom?" That was the question that destroyed everything, because up until that moment, even I had wanted to believe that maybe it was necessary, that maybe there really were emergencies. "Tell me," Vanessa insisted. "Tell me what you were using your mother's money for." The silence stretched out. Robert opened his mouth several times, but no words came out. Finally, in a voice so low we could barely hear it, he said, "For other things." "What things?" "The truck, the restaurants, the kids' clothes, the trip we took to the beach in March." Every word was like a slap. Vanessa took a step back, covering her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God, all this time, all those things I thought were because the business was doing well." "The business is doing well," Robert insisted, but I wanted us to have more, not to lack anything, for the kids to have the best. At your mother's expense? Vanessa shouted. At the cost of leaving her without medicine? Robert, what were you thinking? I don't know! Robert also shouted, standing up. I don't know, all right? It started as something small and then I couldn't stop. It was easy. She never said no to me. I thought she was fine, that with her Social Security she could... I wasn't fine, I said, and my voice cut the air like a knife. I haven't been fine in months, but every time I tried to tell you something, you made me feel guilty. You told me Dad would be disappointed, that family helps each other unconditionally. Mom, Do you know how many days I had to choose between eating or taking my pills? Do you know how many nights I thought I wouldn't wake up the next morning? Vanessa sank into a chair, crying. Robert stood paralyzed. Mr. Thompson waited for all of us to calm down a bit before speaking. I think now we all have a clearer idea of what has been going on. Mr. Robert, your mother does not want to sue you or create a major legal problem. What she needs, and what is fair, is for you to pay back the money you have taken from her these months. Yes, of course, I will pay it back. I have prepared a simple contract, the attorney said, taking out several papers. You agree to pay your mother back the total sum of $342,000 in monthly installments of $14,200 over 2 years. These are reasonable installments, considering your business income. Robert took the papers with trembling hands. He read them quickly, barely really seeing them. It's fine. I'll sign. Whatever. There's one more condition, I said. My voice sounded strange even to me. Firm, sure. I don't want to see you until you've paid back at least half. What? Mom, you can't. Yes, I can. I need time, Robert. Time to heal. Time to understand how my own son was capable of doing this to me. Mom, please. It's my condition. If you want this to stay between us, without major legal problems, you accept. Vanessa wiped her tears and spoke in a firm voice. I'm going to sign too, as a witness and a guarantor. If he doesn't comply, I will take responsibility for the payments. I promise you, mother-in-law, this should never have happened. The attorney prepared the final documents. Robert signed with a trembling hand. Vanessa also signed. I was the last one to do it, and when I put my name on that paper, I felt as if something heavy had lifted from my shoulders. One copy for you, Mrs. Dorothy, one for Mr. Robert, and one for my files, the attorney said as he organized the papers. Robert just stood there, his copy in his hand, not knowing what to do or say. You should go, I told him gently. There's nothing more to talk about today. He nodded slowly. He walked toward the door, but before leaving, he turned around. I'm sorry, Mom. I really am sorry. I didn't answer. I simply closed the door when he left. Vanessa stayed for a moment longer. She came closer to me and hugged me tight. Forgive me, mother-in-law. If I had known. It's not your fault, honey. You didn't know. I'm going to make sure he complies. I swear it. What about the kids? Can I bring them to visit you? They miss you. Of course you can. The door is always open for you. Vanessa left, and finally I was alone with Mr. Thompson. He calmly put away his things. How do you feel, Mrs. Dorothy? I don't know. Sad, tired, but also relieved. You did the right thing. The hard thing, but the right thing. When the attorney left, I was left alone in my living room. The same living room where for months I had handed my money over to Robert. The same living room where I had felt powerless and guilty. But now everything felt different. 3 months passed. 3 months in which, every 15th day, I received a transfer of $14,200 into my account. Robert kept his word. There were no excuses, no delays. I bought my full supply of medications for the first time in half a year. I filled my refrigerator with real food, steak, fruit, vegetables. I even treated myself to a small cake to celebrate my birthday, something I hadn't done since Charles died. The dizziness disappeared. I regained weight. I felt like myself again. One Saturday afternoon, I was in my kitchen preparing coffee when the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Vanessa with my grandchildren, James and Sophia. The children were holding a bouquet of flowers. I opened the door and they rushed toward me. "Grandma, we missed you!" "I missed you too, my darlings. Come in, come in." Vanessa walked in behind them with a tired but genuine smile. We didn't want to come without calling, but the kids insisted so much. "You're always welcome, honey. Do you want coffee? Hot chocolate for the kids?" We spent the afternoon together. The children told me about school, about their friends, about everything. Vanessa stayed quiet for a while until the kids went out to the yard to play. "How is Robert?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. "Different. He's going to therapy. He says he needs to understand why he did what he did, why he needed to pretend so much." Pretend? That was the problem. All his childhood friends have big companies, huge houses, brand new cars. Robert felt like he never measured up, even though the shop is doing well. So he started spending money on things to show them he could too. And he didn't care where the money came from. Vanessa shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I think he lied to himself. He convinced himself it was a temporary loan, that he would pay it all back later. But every month it was easier to ask you than to face the reality that he was living above his means. And now? He sold the truck. He has something more modest. He stopped going to those expensive restaurants. He's rebuilding everything based on honesty. It's difficult, but it's the right path." We were silent for a moment. Then Vanessa asked what I knew she would ask. "Will you ever be able to forgive him? Can he come back?" I sighed. It was a question I had asked myself many times. When he proves that he has truly changed, when he understands that love is not bought and not begged for, when he sees that his value is not in what he has or what he pretends to have. That's fair. And when he finishes paying me back, not because the money is the most important thing, but because I need to see that he keeps his word, that this time is different. Vanessa nodded, wiping her tears. "It's fair," she repeated. When they left, I was alone in my house, but it was a different kind of loneliness. It wasn't the fear from before, that feeling of being abandoned and used. It was peace. That night I took out my old notebook, the one where I had written down every dollar I gave Robert. I opened it and saw the dates, the amounts, the excuses. Each page was a reminder of my pain, but also of my strength, because in the end, I was the one who decided that enough was enough. I closed it and put it away in the back of a drawer. I wasn't going to throw it away. It was part of my history, but I no longer needed to look at it every day. I took out a new, clean notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "Dorothy's expenses, January." I started writing down my own expenses, my medications, my food, my things. For the first time in months, my money was mine. Charles always said that respect is earned. I had to teach my own son what that meant. I had to teach him that a mother is not a bank, that love has limits when it turns into abuse. That family helps each other, yes, but they don't destroy each other in the process. I don't know if Robert and I will ever have the relationship we used to have. Maybe yes, maybe no. But what I do know is that I will never again allow anyone to make me feel guilty for taking care of myself. I am 68 years old. I still have many more years to live, and this time, I am going to live them with dignity. I turned off the light in my bedroom and lay down. For the first time in a long time, I fell asleep peacefully, without fear of the 28th, without fear of the next call, without fear of my own son. I fell asleep in peace, and that peace no one could take away from me. If this story has moved you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel where I share stories of women who find their power in the most adverse circumstances. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss any story. See you in the next story.